know you don't have the ability to exactly go telling teams what coaches they should hire, but we're starting to see a smattering of female coaches in the NBA, probably most notably Becky Hammon. What do you project that landscape looks like 5, 10, 15 years from now? And what does that say when it comes to kids knowing, if I see it, I can do it?
Well, so we have, I believe, 7 women assistant coaches right now in the NBA. You mentioned Becky Hammond. I was thrilled to see her, leave the NBA to go take a head coaching job, obviously at the Aces, and then to, in fact, win the championship. And she may be back one day, who knows, in the NBA with a head coaching job herself. I don't want to put a precise number on it. I'd say I would be hugely disappointed if certainly in 5 years we haven't seen our first female head coach in the NBA.
My first response to this is why? Why does the NBA need to have a woman coach? Where's the market demand for this? Women aren't watching NBA games, not en masse. There are some that do, but they're a niche. Women don't even watch WNBA games, which is huge when you consider all of these articles we've seen about the she economy, how women are outpacing men in terms of college degrees, income, and business creation. Yet somehow they can't support their own league, which isn't surprising because they don't like it. Women don't watch basketball. It's not where they prioritize their dollars. So again, what is the need for this? Women aren't watching, supporting, or playing. Where is the need for them to be involved in the NBA? Honestly, I think the whole thing is a get-off, because feminists want to be men, not because they admire us or are flattered by us, but because they want to replace us. And they're obsessed with having power over men. They like exercising authority over us. So you see them go into fields like law enforcement, psychology, clergy, or become life coaches. Anything where they can tell someone what to do. And being a professional coach in a men's league, exercising authority over a group of big, strong, tall alpha males is the ultimate ego trip. Because feminism isn't just about women becoming men. They want to buck break and recondition all men to be females. Remember, they don't admire us. They want to replace us as the masculine figure. And so often you'll see them attack things that are uniquely male. They fight for inclusion to make it genderless or female compliant. Like the Boy Scouts, for example. Just like women today already have the WNBA but want to be included in the NBA, feminists already had the Girl Scouts, but they wanted to be included in the Boy Scouts. But it's not just the Boy Scouts. Women have infiltrated and changed the culture of the military, fire department, police department. They're in factories. They're on NFL coaching staffs and executive offices. They're in gaming. They're in barbershops. They even dominate the MCU. Hip-hop is now dominated by women. Even the black sector of the manosphere or red pill community has been infiltrated by women. Now, I love the ladies in the space, and it's good to have allies in the gender debate. But my point is, men no longer have spaces of their own, yet women continue to have theirs. Women have their own gyms, spas, television networks, even their own days at the club where they get in for free. They have their own scholarships and programs to help them get ahead in tech and corporate America, as well as starting their own businesses. Even within government, they have benefits that are exclusive to them. Men don't have shelters for abuse. And unless you're talking about an extreme circumstance, men don't receive Section 8. So you see what feminists have done here? They've created a gynocratic society where all things public and private sector are skewed to their benefit, while men have nothing of their own. They still get to keep their stuff, but everything that we have has to be female compliant and inclusive, softened for a woman's sensibilities. And there's no societal push from men to be included in any of these things. So men live in an exclusionary world. We are conditioned to believe that it's okay for society to discriminate against us and only us, while women, on the other hand, have to be included, even if it's something they aren't generally interested in, like NBA basketball. But the thing that bothers me the most about this is that it's a man advocating for it. This is Adam Silver pushing for a women's coach, not some feminist group. And did you notice he made no argument of competency? He just believes it's time for a woman to be a coach. His argument is just because the fact of the matter is no woman is qualified. None of these female head coaching candidates have competed against men on a high level. They have no experience to glean from, therefore they have nothing to teach. I even had a friend of mine say, well, Becky Hammon is qualified. She might take over for Coach Pop one day.
What?
That's Coach Popovich, the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. And that whole thing amazes me. It amazes me how feminism has become so mainstream within our culture that we now have men regurgitating the talking points. Like I said, we've been programmed to believe that women should be included in everything, that it's inherently wrong for men to have anything for our own. So a woman needs to be a head coach of an NBA team? A woman is competent to be a head coach of an NBA team? Based on what observable reality? Where is the need or the evidence for that? It reminds me of something that I heard Brother Dennis Sperling say. It's like society has put a simp chip in the back of every man's head that causes us to believe things that don't make sense. And we have to fight to resist that programming, to pull that chip out of our brains, to stop thinking as male feminists. But let me tell you why I think this entire situation is dangerous for men. Now stay with me because we're going to jump into a time machine, all the way back to the summer of 2021, specifically July. You see, back then, the Portland Trail Blazers had just fired their head coach, Terry Stotts. And while they were seeking his replacement, they asked their star player, Damian Lillard, who he wanted to replace him. And so Lillard gave them two names, Jason Kidd and Chauncey Billups, both of whom were black men, former players, and NBA champions who performed at a high level for many seasons. So Portland took Dame Lillard's recommendation and hired Chauncey Billups, while the Dallas Mavericks, who were also looking for a head coach, hired Jason Kidd, who was a local fan favorite who started his playing career in Dallas back in the 90s. Now, under normal circumstances, that would be considered a success story. Two black men, former players, hired as head coaches on the recommendation of a current NBA player. That should be a celebratory moment of representation. Because critics have often said the NBA needs more black coaches and players should take an active role in helping that process by recommending and speaking up for them. And NBA franchises should be willing to listen. Because again, 75% of the NBA is black, and without the contributions of black men, the NBA would still exist, but it wouldn't be the $10 billion global brand that it is today. So it's a black athlete's burden, a black man's burden, to make sure there are opportunities for black men in coaching. That means what the Portland Trail Blazers, Damian Lillard, and the Dallas Mavericks did was a good thing, right? No, it wasn't. You see, the media had always stood in solidarity with the movement, with seeing more black men in coaching. They went from being an ally to an adversary because of this. And the reason why they did that is because Becky wanted a job. Becky being former NBA assistant Becky Hammon. She was working for the San Antonio Spurs at that time as an assistant. And while black men were fighting in the front lines for more black representation in coaching, there was a subtle feminist movement happening in the NBA. You see, back in 1997, you had Violet Palmer, who became the NBA's first female referee. Then in 2001, we had Lisa Boyer. She worked with the Cavaliers as a voluntary assistant. And the media did their part by hiring women as sideline reporters and commentators in the booth, ESPN in particular. But 2015 was their giant leap forward. The San Antonio Spurs hired Becky Hammon as the league's first full-time assistant coach. And after 6 years of waiting her turn, the media decided 2021 would be her year. Hammon would finally get her head coaching job. They wanted to see her in Portland or Dallas. But when that didn't happen, when Jason Kidd and Chauncey Billups got those jobs and Hammon didn't, the feminists and their media allies started a campaign against them. They declared war on the NBA and the black men who were hired. They accused the NBA of being sexist, and they started digging into the past of both Kidd and Billups, rehashing old sexual misconduct and domestic violence accusations from 1997 and the year 2000. ESPN ran stories on their website and segments on their network asking, is it a good look for two men with a history of violence against women to get head coaching jobs while a woman still waits for an opportunity to coach? Now, to further illustrate what I'm talking about, I'm going to play a clip from ESPN that encapsulates everything that was going on at that time.
Blazers announcing the hire of Chauncey Billups. Now, according to sources of our Adrian Wojnarowski, the deal is for 5 years with the former LA Clippers assistant that includes a team option on the last season. Now, Billups had an illustrious career in the NBA, winning the 2004 NBA title with the Pistons in the Finals MVP award. A 5-time All-Star, he's the only player with a winning record against Michael Jordan, Kobe, and also LeBron. Now, along with Billups' hire, Jason Kidd was named the head coach of the Mavericks last Thursday. Now, both have amazing resumes. However, off-court issues have led to questions surrounding their hires. In 2001, Kidd was arrested for suspicion of hitting his wife and pleaded guilty to spousal abuse. Then in 2012, he also pleaded guilty to a DUI. Billups, on the other hand, settled a civil case in 1997 when a woman alleged that he and his former teammate Ron Mercer raped her. Criminal charges were never filed, but according to police reports, a kit examination displayed injuries consistent with sexual assault. The Blazers have looked into the matter again before hiring Billups, and they were able to not really drop anything new. But Perk, you got to look at all of these factors. Are these hires a bad look for the league, would you say?
No, it's not. You know what's a bad look in the NBA to be writing these articles at this time. That's what's a bad look. Because guess what? When Jason Kidd and Chauncey Billups, when they were the product and they were put on the shelves and they were selling out and they were making money and they were around here delivering championships and making all-star games and selling out jerseys and signing autographs, everything was all fine and dandy when you were the product. Now all of a sudden, when two African Americans have learned from their mistakes, and when I'm talking about Jason Kidd, he learned from his mistakes. He had 2 head coaching hires since then. He was an assistant coach with the Los Angeles Lakers, won the championship. Nothing was said. This man has changed his life. Rick Carlisle endorsed him. Dirk Nowitzki endorsed him. Not a word was said. And when you look at what Chauncey Billups has done, all right, finished his hell of a career, assistant under Ty Lue, worked on our network at ESPN and was a hell of a commentator, did a hell of a job. Should have been a GM in my eyes instead of being a coach because he's that great of evaluating talent. That's how special he is to the game. But soon as African Americans can take that leap and get in place of power, this is when it all starts to come out. This is when these writers want to start bringing up people past, like everyone don't have a damn past. I'm pretty sure we all have something that we done when we were younger that we wouldn't do again. Now, I get it. If with Jason Kidd's situation, if he was a repeated offender, and it was something that he was doing time and time again, okay, I can see that. But this man has grown from that. Chauncey Billups wasn't accused of anything, no criminal charges. Let it go. Let these people get their jobs that they deserve and move on.
Yeah, I think that it's a different question of whether they should get the jobs or if it's a bad look. Like, I do think it's a bad look because particularly in Chauncey's cases, he was up against Becky Hammon, and it's a particularly bad look for the NBA, which is considered the most progressive major sports league that we have, at least major men's sports league that we have in this country. And for them to, and for two hires of guys who have been accused of mistreating women or sexually assaulting or hitting women, for them to get hired and Becky Hammon not to get hired, I don't see how we can argue that it's not a good look. And that doesn't mean that these guys never deserve to work again or that they need to continue paying a price for something they've been accused of or pled guilty to in Jason Kidd's case years ago. Doesn't mean that they can never rebound from that, but we do have to acknowledge it. And it's a story that whether it comes out now or comes out later or came out earlier, it's a story that's not going to go away. Like, it's going to stick with these guys for their entire careers. And I think I had a group text about this situation with a couple friends of mine over the week, and one of the things that came out of that I think was important and we should highlight is that the country doesn't really, and in Chauncey's case specifically, like our country, the judicial system hasn't figured out how to properly deal with assault. And for the NBA, for us to expect the NBA to figure out how to do it is asking a lot. And we can go back to the previous president was accused of many different sexual assault incidents, and that didn't disqualify him from getting that job. So I'm not saying that that's the bar that we have to reach necessarily, but I am saying that I understand when guys or when anybody commits a crime or is accused of a crime, like there should be a process that we go through, which includes finding out or determining whether they are guilty or innocent, and then it also includes some punishment, and then when you come back from that punishment, then you are allowed to re-enter society and you're allowed to work again. It doesn't mean that you should be the head coach of a team or general manager of a team, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be, but all those things need to take place, and I don't think that's a failing of the NBA. That's a failing of our judicial system more than anything else. But it does, I mean, to get back to the original question, it does look bad today to have that as one of the headlines.
Yeah, but Dominique, look, the situation that happened with Chauncey Billups happened when this man was 19 years old. That was almost 30 years ago. And then he wasn't found guilty. It wasn't like he had you could go Google his criminal record and it's on there. Nothing happened, okay, at the end of the day. But you know what's even more disrespectful? When we talk about being disrespectful to Becky Hammond, the women of the world, you know what's more disrespectful? Is that people are putting this out about Chauncey Billups when he have a wife and 3 daughters. How about the disrespectful stuff in that? When people are writing these articles about him that is false because he was never accused in the first damn place. That's disrespectful.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. I don't appreciate, I'm sure Chauncey doesn't appreciate it, but like, the facts are the facts. Like, the accusations were there. They brought up the accusations, and I don't think that it's disrespectful. I didn't use the word disrespectful. Like, I don't think it's disrespectful to Becky Hammond or disrespectful to anybody. I just think it's a bad look. And whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter. It's about the optics of the situation. The question is, does it look good or does it look bad? It looks bad for a league that prides itself on being progressive to have a woman in the running for the job, whether she deserved it or not. I'm sure she deserves to be a head coach at some point. It looks bad to deny a woman a job and then hire 2 men who are being accused of violent acts against women. Like, it looks bad. It doesn't mean that. Go ahead, Perk.
But Foxworth, this is what I'm telling you, man. Listen, at the end of the day, J. Kidd had 2 jobs. He was with the Nets, he was with the Bucks, he got hired on with the Lakers. Nobody said a damn word. And at the end of the day, it's not about men or women when you're talking about hiring for coaching. It's who's better fit for the job, who the people want, who the coaches want, who the organization want. Damian Lillard said for the Portland Trail Blazers, when asked, he wanted either Jason Kidd or Chauncey Billups.
That's fine. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. And I like Chauncey Billups. I know him a little bit personally from Denver, and I liked him, but I don't know him well enough to know whether these are real or fake. But you brought up at the beginning of this how unfair it is, in part because they are black men. So I think you also understand that sometimes just because somebody wants to hire someone doesn't mean that they deserve the job. It's not an argument against Becky or against either of these guys or an argument for Becky Hammond, but just because somebody, as a football player and someone who's been in the NFL, there's lots of black coaches who deserve to get hired. They didn't get the job because we fell back and we weren't critical of them. That's a whole nother conversation, but I'm with you on the point that you're making. Like, it's uncomfortable for all of us, and it is a bad look for the league.
Yeah, I actually have to agree with Dominique. I do think it's a bad look for the league. I think as far as the optics are concerned, I mean, I know that they did re-delve into that investigation and, tried to figure out what they could, didn't find anything else, and decided that at the end of the day it was more important to hire Chauncey as their head coach than anything else, so they went with that decision. But it also makes me wonder how serious they actually were about hiring Becky Hammond, because you talk about optics. Sometimes you have to wonder if teams really just, say Becky's a finalist just for the fact that, this would make us look good to show that we're actually considering hiring a woman as our head coach. Were they actually really? I have no idea, but this makes me question that and really, truly wonder about it. So,
shout out to Big Perk, Kendrick Perkins. I couldn't have said it any better. And the thing that bothered me the most about what ESPN did is that Chauncey Billups worked for them. Before he was the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, he was an on-air talent. And they didn't have a problem with his allegations, not when he was making money for them. Back then, he was a colleague, he was a friend. And the media had no issue with Jason Kidd either. So they weren't mad at those guys until they got in the way of their plans of seeing a woman being a head coach in the NBA. So fast forward to where we are now, and feminists and their media allies are back on their quest to see a woman head coach. They're back to fighting for a piece of what they didn't build, wanting what they didn't earn. But this time they have the commissioner as an ally, David Silver. He's also joined the fight to make this happen, and he wants to see it done within the next 5 years. For no other reason than,
and who's that? Oh, it's Mr. MVP, Simp!
100% of the players in the NBA are men. 75% of them are black. And no woman, especially a white one, is entitled to anything in that league. And here's what makes this whole thing so dangerous. Because they've made it clear, the next time there's a head coach opening and they feel as if there's a woman competent for that job, they're going to assassinate the character of any man that gets in the way. And when that happens, I'm out. I'm done with watching NBA basketball. And I don't say that flippantly, because I've been a fan of this league for the better part of 30 years. And I've tolerated a lot of crap from the NBA, from the lack of parity, the lack of physical play, and the lapse of overall skill. And my interest has started to wane over the years. But this right here is something I can't stomach. I can't sit in support of a system that would tear down the reputation of a man in favor of a woman who isn't qualified. That's a bridge too far for me. So if you like this video, please give it a like and leave a comment in the comments section and share the link on your social media platforms. And if you are new to my channel, please subscribe and turn on that notification bell. That way you'll get alerts every time I upload new content. This is the Layman's Journal. Thanks for stopping by. I'm out.